I understand Mr. Davis was the hardest hitting player on the men's team last year, sir. How is he being allowed to play against biological females?
You're disgusting. Get out of my face.
Stay the away from me, man.
I heard what you were saying before. I think the idea is that you're not being tolerant of other people's beliefs. You think everyone has to believe what you believe. I think we should just be tolerant.
Ladies, what do you think about Mr. Davis injuring biological females? Any thoughts on that? Ash, is it true that you were voted the hardest hitter on the male team that you played for last year? You're the ref. You should be calling this.
I will be calling a very safe game, sir. Thank you.
Keep walking if you don't have good vibes.
Okay, then.
Good vibes.
Oh, really? Including a male player injuring female players. That's okay with you?
What's wrong with that?
You don't have to talk to the players.
Please don't touch me. Are you with the local media? This guy, Ash Davis, 3 women on the Stony Creek Camels team had to be carted off the field. How is that safe? He's a biological male.
You know what? That's not true.
Mr. Davis, why are you doing this? You were voted the hardest hitter on the male team last year. Doesn't that make things even more lethal for the biological females that you're injuring?
Oh, okay. I can't answer that question right now.
Oh, is that right? I see these ladies telling you not to talk. You're taking orders from these rugby players, sir.
Well, I'm just here to watch a rugby game.
So why is this being tolerated, ma'am?
Because they're not a male.
They. Oh, it's a they. How about yourself, sir? Do you agree with a biological male playing against biological females? Looks like you're giggling. David Menzies for Rebel News here in Whitby, Ontario. And folks, we have come to the head office of Rugby Ontario. It's part of the Ability Centre behind me. There are some other sports organizations here as well, basketball, lacrosse, and so forth. And the reason why we're here is we're trying to find out what the executives at Rugby Ontario have to say about what I consider to be an absolute scandal, namely a male biological player, Ash Davis, playing against and hurting female biological players. As you may recall, less than 2 weeks ago at a game against Burlington in Fergus, we tried to scrum Mr. Davis. We wanted to know, what is he thinking? Why is he doing this? Check it out.
Banana, 34-21.
Yes, he can. Nice.
Hey, Mr. Davis, Ash, why are you doing this? I'm David Menzies, Rebel News.
Hi. No, you're not really a part of this. We're having a team chat now.
Okay,
so.
I'm just trying to ask some questions, ma'am.
But this is not the appropriate time for that.
Why are
So
you
it's
allowing a
not-
biological male to compete against female
I'm
players?
not going to have a conversation with
Okay,
you.
well, I'll talk to Ash then. Ash, do you take joy in injuring female rugby players? Are you lacking the skills to play with male players where you should be? You're a biological male, aren't you?
I got you. Right here. Thank you, sir.
No one.
Mr. Ash, are you a misogynist?
Coming with me. Please leave your police back.
Hey, watch it. You'll be charged with assault. So that was astonishing for a couple of reasons. One is that Mr. Davis can't even articulate why he's doing this. But did you see the indoctrination with those young female rugby players, folks? They think it's just hunky-dory. And it is astonishing because it's not a personal opinion that male rugby players should not be playing with female rugby players. It is the opinion, actually, it's the regulation handed down by the international governing body for rugby based in the UK. That would be World Rugby. And this is what they have to say when it comes to transgender players. Quote, transgender women may not currently play women's rugby. Why? Because of the size, force, and power-producing advantages conferred by testosterone during puberty and adolescence, and the resultant player welfare risks this creates, end quote. So World Rugby is laying down the law, but Rugby Ontario, Rugby Canada, they're not following their own sports governing bodies' recommendations. I just don't get that, especially given that this is a public safety issue. Safety comes first, right? But these organizations, I suppose, in the unholy trinity of diversity, equity, and inclusion, they think this is just hunky-dory to have a male identifying as a lesbian to play rugby. Absolutely shocking. Now, I can tell you, my cameraman Maurizio and I, we did go into the building. Rugby Ontario's office is tucked away in a little corner. And while the lights are on, nobody's home. It looks like they're still operating under COVID regulations. People are working at home. That's what one of the staffers here told us. So they didn't respond to my emails, the CEO and the communications person. So I just sent a voicemail to the CEO, Miles Spencer. Here's what I had to say. Oh, hello, Mr. Spencer. I hope you're doing well. It's David Menzies at Rebel News. I don't know if you received my email from last week. I sent one out to you and your communications person, but I've yet to hear back. We're following up on the story of Ash Davis. This is the biological man who is evidently passing himself off as a lesbian in order to play rugby with the female team in Fergus, Ontario. And just a couple of questions. I noticed the international governing body for rugby, that would be World Rugby, they prohibit biological males from playing with females. And I'm curious why Rugby Ontario would be going against the mandate of the global governing body for rugby. We also found out last week that Mr. Davis used to play with the Fergus men's team, and he was actually awarded hardest hitter. And this is amongst the men, which I think might add insult to injury, no pun intended, in terms of the females that he is hitting and injuring. I'm sure you're aware that 3 women with the Stony Creek Camels team had to be taken off the field because of injuries occurred by him. And finally, I notice that the only stance Rugby Ontario has really taken on this is to have a gag order to players, not to talk to people in the community, not to talk to people in the media. I'm just really curious, Mr. Spencer, why you want to cover up this farce. I have no other word for it. We did drop by the Rugby Ontario office and it was completely locked. There was nobody there. So if you can return my call, that would be greatly appreciated. Thank you, sir. Bye-bye. And so far, just crickets, folks. And it's kind of interesting, though, because the only mainstream media journalist to cover this story is our friend at the Toronto Sun, Joe Warmington. And when he reached out to Rugby Ontario, he discovered that they're more concerned not with fixing this heinous problem, but rather covering it up. If you are contacted by anyone in the community or the media, please do not engage by offering any opinion or comment on the situation, end quote. So folks, I don't have any hope my emails and voicemails are going to be returned by this organization. They're more concerned with a cover-up. They're more concerned with enforcing a gag order. So it's just another sordid element to this story. And as for Rugby Canada, well, according to our friend, Mr. Warmington, they said that this is a federal inclusion issue. And not only is this transgender player welcomed in the league, but the law protects that person from discrimination. Shocking. I thought the law might want to protect biological female players from, potentially getting crippled or worse from a muscular male pretending to be a woman. And we did reach out to Rugby Canada. My email to their communications person was not returned, so we just made a phone call to her. Now, I think this speaks volumes about what we're dealing with in terms of wokeism at Rugby Canada, because the spokeswoman is Tanya Richards, and she goes by count them, three pronouns: she, her, L. I'm hoping to touch base with Tanya Richards, she, her, L. My name is David Menzies with Rebel News. Miss Richards, she, her, L. I think I sent you an email last week. I never heard back. We're working on a follow-up story in terms of why it is that a male rugby player, Ash Davis, is being allowed to play with biological female rugby players. We understand this goes against the rules of the international governing body, World Rugby. So we're trying to understand how this is being tolerated, given that it is a safety issue. This man has injured several players, female players that is. When he played for the male squad last year, he was voted the team's hardest hitter on the Fergus Highlanders men's squad. And I think that brings about more concerns as to why he's playing a contact sport with biological females. So if you could kindly get back to me about this, because we're trying to figure out how this is being tolerated. We understand he currently identifies as a lesbian, but even if that is true or not, how do you know that this is not a male player who is, well, quite frankly, grifting the system? He's just saying this in order to play with biological females. I would love to interview you about this and about Rugby Canada's position on mixed-sex rugby games. Thank you so much. Have a great day. So again, folks, much like Rugby Ontario, I don't expect Miss Richards, she, her, L, to get back to me anytime soon. And, you know, it's funny, going to this facility, you can't help but notice the wokeism. For example, the bathrooms are gender shared, if that's the appropriate term. So come in, come one, come all, diversity, understand. And just check this out. I mean, 2 crosswalks with the LGBT rainbow flag. I'm really confused by that. Does that mean only LGBTers can cross the street here? Or can some white heterosexual square like me make use of the crosswalk too? But not 1, but 2. And I can tell you, I've already researched the paint jobs for these rainbow crossings. 12 grand per crossing. Unbelievable. In any event, folks, we are staying on this story. Stay tuned. For Rebel News, I'm David the Menzoid Menzies. Well, folks, I think the Ash Davis story is the most shocking, the most underreported, the most overlooked sports story in Canada right now, with very few exceptions. The mainstream media, well, they're simply not interested, or they actually condone what's going on. Can you believe it? That's why I know you love Rebel News, to bring you the other side of the story. But we need your help. Please go to rebelfieldreports.com. That's rebelfieldreports.com. And if you can, kindly make a donation so we can continue to bring you the kind of journalism you so adore us for.